even emotionally, having seen him so much in the Winnipeg-Calgary playoff series and also in just the time out there, I did not fully appreciate the level of his hands. So you think you know, but you almost have to get on the ice with him in practice to see the things that he does with his hands. He's an exceptionally bright player, actually very creative. So the idea of him is he's an agitator, he's a hard man, he plays a power forward game, and it's true. But more in terms of his hands are in traffic hands, they're net front hands. It's not really bowling guys over or running people from all over the ice, but what he can do in tight areas is incredible.
How would you describe the way his vocal leadership impacts the team?
Well, it's always for leaders personality based, right? So there has to be an authenticness to who you are. There were two things that surprised me. One was his hands, the other was how he treats the people around him, how he treats the trainers. And it's interesting because I again, in Winnipeg, I'd heard stories about his dad and the things that he did that people never found out about, impactful things for trainers, for their families when there was adversity, when somebody got sick, when they needed some financial help, that his father would quietly step in, and you hear about it 15 years later. He just didn't tell anybody. And then, the first week he's here, he's got all the trainers out, takes them out for dinner. He's really impressive around a room. He's one of those kids that grew up in an NHL locker room and took all the good things out of that experience and none of the bad. Like for a guy that at 24 is playing in an all-star game that puts up the points, he gets a big paycheck. There's no entitlement to his game. He's very coachable, very open to talking about hockey. It's been a really good experience from a coach's point of view. It's been a great experience working with him.
In terms of tonight's matchup, how would you describe the importance of getting these 2 points in terms of setting the tone for the rest of this road trip?
I got a decent vocabulary, but I don't think I got a good enough word for the magnitude of the game. So we always soft sell these things, right? I'll tell you after the game how important it was. How about that? These are all now. We're in that mode where we have to mentally approach all of these as playoff games. You're not going 16-0 in the playoffs, and we're not going to win every game on this road trip. It's as tough a trip as I've seen in the NHL this month. So surviving how you lose the games and how you survive them are going to be critical, but you got to win a whole lot more than you lose right now for us.
When you look at the math, it doesn't look good. It can be overwhelming. Yeah. So, what do you want? What do you want your team focused on? The little things that are going to get you rolling.
There's two. So there's the stuff that we talk about in room, and none of that's math. I'm not at the point where I feel I have to convince them the math. So simple math things. On the 26th of January, we'll have 20 home games left, half our home schedule after 3.5 months. So there's a cost to that for us. 9 of our next 11. We go into the Central Time Zone once after that trip, and that's it. We're on the East Coast. We're done with the West and heavy trips. The negative part is we'll go out for 4. They fly us home to play Vancouver, send us up north, fly us home to play a game, send us back up north. That's going to be taxing for our club. We've just finished the start of 4 sets of back-to-backs in this month, so it's going to be a challenge. For the players, we want to be good at 1 or 2 things each night, and our analytics say we have been actually.
That's why you're tough to read, right? Like your expected goals is good, your shot attempt percentage is good.
Yeah. Slot shots for and against is elite. We're in the top 4 or 5 on so many what we believe anyway are important metrics. So that tells us then that tells you, well, you're not though, but you're a game under 500. What's missing? So there are a couple of things that are glaring that have to get better.
Special teams, some of that.
I'm going to say penalty kill for sure. Our power play is interesting. So math, I do look at all this stuff, right? We started 2 for 33 this year, and that's in 7 games, not 15. Our first 7 games. So when you sub that out, I think we're running just over or just at 25% on our power play, which puts us right behind Toronto. Our power play has not been the divider for us. Penalty kill, some goaltending stats. Yep. And then there's a block of time in there. Health has had a factor. We lost Barkov and Lundell, 2 of your top 3 center for 10 games. That hurts. But we're healthy now, so we got no excuses.
Goaltender tonight, Coach?
Bob's going tonight.
Any lineup changes?
None.
And looking at the last games, how important is it to take that feeling and how you guys played last game into the start of this game?
It's important that you play the game the way you did and that you win. because the 2 periods that we played against the New York Rangers, we gave up 9 even strength shots in the last 2 periods in a 1-goal game. So they didn't sit back on it. The Rangers aren't hanging on to a lead after the first period. They're going. And that's the 2 of the hardest periods that we play. That's the key piece. But to get them to play as hard as we need to play, you do have to win games to sell it. So it was important that we won that game. And when you look at it, you would say, well, it's Arizona. But they had beat LA, Colorado, Toronto, and had a lead on Tampa in the game just prior. They were playing very, very well.
What have you liked most about Giovanni Smith's game since he's been with the team?
It's predictable. You pretty much know what's going to happen next every time it's on the ice, because if it's on his side of the ice and you got the puck, he's going to hit you. And then his reloads into the right spot. So I'm going to give you words that aren't mine. There'd be Eric Stahl's. When I asked him, how'd you feel about playing with Smith, he said, he's predictable. I loved it. If the puck's in his corner and it's his job, he goes and does his job. Now I can read off him and I can play off him. So he's easy to play with. If he's not in the corner on the puck, he's net front, and if he's not there, he's F3, and those are the only 3 places you find him. There's not a lot of aberration in his game.
And how much does Eric's veteran presence kind of help that line in terms of Giovanni's
Well, Eric is a
experience?
very bright guy at all levels of the game. Came in as a kid, all dangle almost on and an all speed game, and he's learned. He's killing penalties for us, right? So he's learned all roles. So when he sits beside young players, or I would say energy players, Lombo and Smitty, he helps focus that energy, right? You just put the puck behind the net. Just when you get up there, just put it behind the net. I'll be there. So he settles them, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, guys.